They're gonna ask you questions. They want to know what you're doing. So it's still, he's telling the story of a paradise that doesn't exist currently in America, right? And it's still resonates today.
If I'm actually thinking you're acting different, manic, spitting sounds of manic depression.
Bang, welcome to the Broadview Music Edition. I don't know. We're gonna come up with a good name. I haven't figured it out yet. Say hello, Christian. Christian, say hello.
What up?
You got Brian. We're going to be talking about some music today. We're going to talk about Nas It Was Written. And the reason we're going to talk about It Was Written is because almost 25 years or whatever to the day, 24 years, I guess. I can't do math right now. 24 years ago, yesterday, Nas came out with If I Ruled the World, arguably Nas's best hit single, biggest hit single, whatever you want to call it, and dropped his second rap album, which was, much looked forward to. A year, about 18 months, I think, previous, he comes out with Illmatic, which is to this day revered as one of the best, if not the best rap album of all time. And people are waiting with bated breath for what the next album is going to be. And he gives us It Was Written. He addresses some beefs on here, which we'll get to. Some interesting beefs and some interesting things I think people thought about at the time meant one thing and turned out another. He also introduces us to The Firm. I think this is the first time we actually hear The Firm. And some of the other, like, QB people, like Cormega. I don't know if Cormega was ever actually Firm. He was kind of Firm affiliated, whatever. But Cormega, one of my guys that I like, one of those guys that you're like, maybe not super famous, but I loved him as a rapper, who Nas ends up beefing with anyway. And yeah, It Was Written. So, Christian, what could you say about this album? I know you were a little bit late to it, but what could you add about It Was Written?
So It Was Written. So again, what's up, guys? So for me, I wasn't on the big Nas train in the beginning. The age-old tell, there's usually two titans that come about, and it's very hard to support both at the same time. You could be a fan of both, but it's like you're either on one team or the not. So like the Michael Jacksons and the Prince, like Tupac and Biggie. So Jay-Z and Nas were the two things for me growing up in the 90s. I was a little bit late to the game. So I listened to it a little bit later in life, but I think Stillmatic was like the actual first full like Nas album I ever listened to. I just knew who Nas was, but never really. But it was undeniable when you heard his singles on, especially If I Ruled the World. I mean, it's timeless. Mm-hmm. So this, I presume, if I were to ask you, this is the Nasty Nas stage of his career, right? Because he goes through many evolutions, like Escobar and Nostradamus and all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. So this is his Nasty Nas days, correct?
Yeah, pretty much. This is kind of like, the beginning of that arc in his life career, which takes a lot of different arcs. And it's funny because, not to get too sidetracked, but one of the singles on here, which I can't remember, is actually the first video, and it's important to keep in mind. I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, this is the beginning of Nasty Nas, and Nasty Nas is always a kind of like a pseudonym or an alter ego that he goes by, dating back to the barbecue, and dating back to Illmatic. Nasty Nas is arrived and all that on Illmatic. It's always a thing that he's always referencing, but then Nasty Nas takes a turn into kind of poppy, which then leads us to the Esco and Nostradamus and all of those things later on. And also to your credit, which you mentioned earlier about, not here, but about on Jay-Z, when Jay-Z addresses Nas and he says the famous line, "You have one album in 10 years. One was nah, the other was Illmatic. This is the nah album," which is a little bit disingenuous, honestly.
Right,
I do think this is a great album. It's better than nah.
It's better than average.
Yeah, it's better than your average album. But obviously you're beefing, so you're gonna shit on them.
So yeah, the stigma obviously is like, when you come out with such a revered album, it's your first album. It's like, how do you follow that up? Like, no one can do it. You come out with a movie, the sequel sucks. You know what I mean? You come out with shows, second season isn't as good as the first season. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just like the weight of the shoulders, and then to contextualize, because he's like the next best thing, right? He is it.
He is it.
At this point in his career. And then New York was the epitome of hip hop at this time, correct? So who else was out around this time?
Well, so this is a very important time in in hip hop, right? In New York in '96. '96 is just like one of my favorite years ever,
Sure.
generally in life. But this is an important time for a couple reasons. One, so from Nas's perspective, this album sets the stage for a couple things that are going to happen later in his career that we see on Stillmatic with songs like "I Gave You Power," being able to tell stories in this very captivating way, a little bit different, just different than telling. He could explain them. I'm going to get into that in 1 second. I don't want to get too far off track, but he's leading this groundwork, but also the negative part where this is where he starts getting a little cute with the beat picking. And he thinks he can do whatever he wants to do with beats. So, but it doesn't affect him here necessarily. This is still a great album. But at this time in New York, Biggie dies the next year, so we're kind of embroiled in the East-West beef, and the King of New York concept isn't necessarily spoken about. Everyone assumes it's Biggie. Nas addresses that on this album, arguably. Some people think it's a Pac this, some people think it's a Biggie this, and we'll get to that. Jay-Z is heating up. Reasonable Doubt comes out this year.
Right.
DMX is on the way. You know what I mean? We have the locks.
Wu-Tang's out, right?
Wu-Tang is out. Mobb Deep is out. You know what I mean? New York is heavy. But the West Coast right now, at this time, Tupac is his own coast in hip hop, essentially. You know,
Right.
he is as big of a star as there's ever been in hip hop to this day. I think we always say Jay-Z is the MJ of hip hop, and he is. But in terms of fame and popularity, Tupac really might be. He is the rock star of hip hop. Everybody knows who Tupac is. So Tupac is the king of rap, and the West Coast, Snoop Dogg is popping. Dr. Dre is dominating, makes an appearance on this album, which is important to talk about because the East-West beef was always blown out of proportion. It was two crews that were beefing, and there's a lot of shit that could be its own episode talking about. But it's not as East-West as people think it is. And Nas actually has a relationship with Snoop Dogg at one point, I think around this time. So there's like a landscape. There's a war going on, and everyone is kind of reaching for this throne before Biggie passes. So this is Nas trying to kind of stake a claim almost to that. You know what I mean?
Awesome. So,
yeah.
I lost my train of thought. I was going to say,
yeah, you're fine.
In terms of production of this, like, the irony of it being, because you were talking about like him getting cute, because like was always one of my critiques with Nas. It's like, man, your selection is brutal. Like you are a rock star, and like your beat selection, and like it was interesting to me. So like I've listened to this album maybe once or twice in my whole life. So to revisit it and the production, because Trackmaster, you know, they were running it at one point, but my last the last taste in the mouth was, you know, best of both worlds, and that was a rough album. That was the album that we do not speak about. And it was like solely produced by Trackmaster. Where in this album, when he steers from them, is when the album kind of goes south.
Correct.
And that was like the aha moment for me. Like, dang, that's crazy.
Yeah, and even. The other thing about Nas, so Nas always explains he explained recently that the thing with his beat picking that was, the thing about his beat picking was always that he wanted to push his own creativity. Sure. And that really kind of starts on this album, again, with songs like I Gave You Power, and some of the other songs. I Gave You Power, obviously I reference because it's him talking from the perspective of a gun. And he's starting to get creative. He's starting to get cute. He has a Dr. Dre song. The beat is a Dr. Dre beat, but I would almost argue was a mail-in Dr. Dre beat. Right. You know what I mean? Or maybe it's just Dr. Dre trying to make a beat for Nas, and it's like, no, just give him a Dr. Dre beat.
Right.
Give him a Snoop Dogg beat and let Nas do Nas on it. And he doesn't do that. But this album, it's a great album. It was fun to re-listen to. And also to identify some of the issues where the album starts getting a little bit kind of, you know, to your point, off the rails a little bit almost. But The important thing, the one thing I do want to point out, one theme that I picked up in this album kind of early on, which I had forgotten about, and I teased it earlier. So I can't remember what the first single is because the video, if you saw the videos, Street Dreams leads into If I Ruled the World, if I'm not mistaken. And Street Dreams is a remake almost of Casino. If you remember it.
The video or the song?
The video, I'm sorry. The video is a remake of Casino, and the beginning of the video is him walking. No, the beginning of the video is him talking to somebody in the desert, which is mimicking the scene in Casino where Ace is talking to give me a ding here. What's his name? Bing. Fucking Joe Pesci. I'm sorry. He's talking to Joe Pesci in the desert, and then there's the in the video is him walking into the car and the car blowing up, and it's kind of funny. It's not ironic necessarily, I guess, but it's emblematic of how Nas's career goes. It's very much like Ace and Casino, where there are these intense highs in the beginning, then there's these intense lows in the middle that really do kind of coincide with his relationships with women, which are maybe a little bit problematic, and then his mom's death. But go ahead. You want to add something?
With that thought, because I've read about a theory of If I Rule the World, and I want to get your thoughts on it. We're gonna talk about. We're obviously gonna dissect If I Rule the World.
Okay.
I want to get back into the album. So the first 3 tracks.
Yeah.
You can't skip it. These are classic. No. These are timeless. The Message. Yeah. Classic mafioso rap. Mafioso. He like him, Raekwon, Ghostface. Like they are in the same breath when it comes to like black mafia rap.
Correct.
And this is him. You know, Nas is obviously known for his storytelling.
Correct. And what's important about this song, which I didn't mean not to derail you. What's important about this song is these first lines: fake thug, no love, you get the slug, CB4, gusto, your luck though. I didn't know till I was drunk though. For a very long time, people thought he was talking about Tupac there. And now this is still up for debate. But the best argument that he's talking about Biggie is that at the end of this verse, or maybe it's at the end of this song, I can't remember. He says, he makes a reference almost to Ready to Die here, suggesting that he's talking about Biggie. So there is a story, and I don't know how true this was, but there was a story that at one time Puffy had Nas, Biggie, and Raekwon sitting in his Range Rover and was trying to almost make like a super group at that time of those 3 MCs, and it falls apart. And from that point forward, there's kind of a weird falling out, and actually there's kind of a Wu-Tang Biggie beef, right, which is which I think Ghostface references on Verbal Intercourse, talking about how Biggie jacks his style by putting the baby on the front of Ready to Die, just like Nas has the baby picture of him on the front of Illmatic. And this line might be referencing Biggie. So it's important to talk about. This is it's not the intro of the album. The intro of the album is a whatchamacall, is just a, like a skit. Right. But in terms of intros, as far as intros go, this is one of the hardest intros out there.
To begin an album, yeah.
Yeah, to start an album. The second verse, I think, falls apart, but he comes in so fucking hard in the beginning. That fake thug, no love, like that shit is just, you can't talk about Nas necessarily in a technical rapper way, I don't think.
Okay. Because
he's always gone, he stretches bars all the time. You know what I mean? And he doesn't necessarily like to fit things to flow with a beat. So sometimes you'll hear him go off the rail a little bit or kind of go just get off beat just to get the line out. He doesn't give a shit. Sure. He does it often, which you see happen a lot in the second verse. But when he's on beat and when he's getting his shit out, is really no one fucking with him. You know what I mean? Like, this is GOAT level shit. But sorry, not to get too off track there. I just wanted to point that out about about The Message.
So yes, The Message, Fire, Street Dreams interpolation of Euromedics, and Curtis Blow, you have the classic beat.
Yep.
I Gave You Power. So that's obviously a standout track on this album because he does a personification of the gun and just, blows people's minds from it. Was there anyone else like doing this kind of storytelling from that personification perspective?
So, I mean, at this time, obviously, the GOAT storyteller is really Slick Rick, right? That's the guy that everybody's talking about. This is the guy who's telling stories, right? Or even to the point where the art of storytelling by Outkast is, boop, Slick Rick is on it because on the remix because it's Slick Rick.
He's a master.
Yeah, master storyteller. But in terms of coming up with a theme like this, I think you see KRS-One do some things like this, and there are some other examples, but not where I'm going to just take an entire track, tell you a story from the perspective of an inanimate object. I think a lot of people actually would have thought that was corny, but because Nas had built the clout at this point with Illmatic, people are going to ride with it. Like if DMX does that on his first album, for example, I think people would be like, what? Like, this is weird, but go ahead.
Well, I don't think it was perceived as corny. The only thing I didn't like that he literally told you in the beginning of it is like, I'm a gun.
Correct.
Because it did become corny because he tried to do it from like a cockroach at one point. Like he did it multiple times.
He does it a couple times.
Came out corny.
Yeah. Correct. They don't go as great.
Was that?
They don't go as great.
Nah.
Yeah.
We could. They were.
Well, you know what? But the thing, I have a different because he does that on N, and I have a different perspective of N now. When I first listened to it, I wasn't a huge. Not even just of the messaging, but I thought the production was worse than it was. When I re-listened to it, it is a lot better than I remembered.
For sure.
So that song, it's a corny concept, but I didn't think it was a bad song. I'm going to just say that.
Sure. So those 4 tracks, you just can't skip. You're going in there, and as if I was a Nas fan at this age, I'm like, he's killing it.
Yeah, it's Nas. He's back.
Track 5 for me, Watch Them Niggas, that was the first beat that I was like, this is rough. I think his verses were fire.
Mm-hmm.
His verses, ain't no game, just some bitches understand my story. Like, that resonated with me. I was like,
yeah,
this is awesome. I don't got no game, but they just
understand. Yeah.
I just thought the beat was like, And then Taking Blood, first beat, that not by the track master, flows insane. He's just kind of rapping to rap. I think he's just taking blood. He's rapping a rap. I mean, we don't even have to spend time on it.
No.
It's just, how do you feel about 5 and 6? Even 7. Even 7 was boring to me. So I think that middle was kind of like the, whew.
You took the words.
Through this one.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. So 5, 6, and 7 end up getting it together. I did like track 5 for a very long time because of his verses. Right. You know what I mean? The way he comes out. He's a master of that first line.
Yep.
Like just capturing your attention and on here, I don't even want to open the lyrics necessarily, but it really, he does it here. What does he say? They never realized how real Nas is so decisive. It's just the likeness of Israel Lights. I mean, you see, like, you're just not, it's just no guy's going to do some shit like this, right? Like, this is just Nas being fucking Nas. But to your point, yeah, the beat is a little, it's a little questionable. It's like weird. You know what I mean? I don't exactly know what he's thinking when he does this beat. And he does it a couple times. It's not the only song that sounds like this. I would say Black Girl Lost is also has a similar beat to this. That's just like what was, yeah, what were you thinking here? But just, yeah, 5, 6, and 7 is whatever.
And then Affirmative Action, another classic, like timeless. And this is the introduction of the Firm. So for the people that do not know about the Firm, Brian, what was the excitement level about the Firm and Affirmative Action? Like, was this their first track together?
Yeah. So, man, I want to say there might have been another one on AZ's first album.
Okay.
And I can't remember. But this is really, because now, so this is Nas's response, right? So if we continue along with the theme of him beefing with Biggie, this is his response to Junior Mafia. Okay, you got Little C's and you got the Locks, maybe, whatever. Well, I got Jungle, I got Cormega, I got AZ, who's really, AZ is the star of I love AZ so much. And you got Lil' Kim, I got Foxy Brown, right? And to the point where this Foxy verse might take the show is similar to Nicki Minaj on Monster, but we're not exactly sure who wrote that verse for her. There's a lot of speculation about that.
For sure. It's understood, like Little Kim. It's understood. Like it's
yeah,
like,
correct. And because Biggie wrote the verse for Take Money, Get Money, and it kind of Nas might have wrote the verse here, but I actually don't think Foxy has the best verse. She has a fire. Her verse is fire, but this is AZ.
I'll take.
Huh? Oh yeah, I don't give a fuck because AZ is one of my favorite rappers.
Okay.
That gets no love, and actually, I think I've always thought. See, not what I think what Nas has over someone like AZ, right? Is that Nas is his voice is better than I think people understand.
For
It's
sure.
raspy, but it's cool. It's laid back, but it's powerful. It's
Right.
unique. His delivery is he masters his delivery. AZ is a better technical rapper to me. Just technically in terms of getting like rapping on a beat, the way he rhymes everything, it's structured how I want to rap, right? And I also think he's able to get out the things that Nas wants to say in that better format. He just doesn't have the delivery and that coolness. So AZ absolutely murders this verse. And remember, we talked on what album are we talking about? Shit, was it B? Yeah, B. When we talked about the song B, yeah, ding. We talked about the song B, where Common takes the opportunity to take the beat drop to say the thing about his daughter, not AZ here. The beat drop, in fact, touch minds and I react like a Rottweiler. I mean, you're not. The thing is, I'm sorry. Let me just go rap nerd real quick. I just want to do a rap nerd thing. I'm so sorry. Let's look at how he rhymes this. So sit back, relax, catch your contact, sip your cognac, and let's all wash this money through this laundromat. Sneak attack, the new cats in rap, worth top dollar, in fact. Touch minds and I react like a Rottweiler, right? So he's rhyming Matt, right? It's yep. Cognac, contact, laundromat, sneak attack, new cats in rap. And now he sneaks in, worth top dollar, in fact. Touch minds and I'll react like a Rottweiler. Like, that is fucking genius writing. I don't give a shit. The way that he just switches it in the middle of the scheme to turn the rhyme into to end with top dollar and I react like a Rottweiler is like genius. It's just genius writing.
He's on a different level writing this verse.
Just different level writing. And this AZ is different level writing in general. Again, one of my favorite rappers. I don't give a fuck who disagrees. I love AZ. I stand for him. You know what I mean? I stand from. I think he has the best verse.
All the smoke.
I think he has the best verse on this song,
okay.
Personally, and arguably the best verse on the album. He doesn't have the best verse on, but this is one of them. It's one of the best verses on the.
You would argue it. It's when you say it's arguably, you mean I would argue.
Yeah.
And so the obvious big controversy. I mean, it's just a woman spit. Like, you know what I mean? It's the stereotypical. You know.
Yeah.
Men dominated hip hop genre, and they're like, oh, woman's rapping, and then they're rapping really well.
Yeah.
And then obviously the controversy being her math.
Yeah. Well, and not only that though, we were either used to hearing Queen Latifah, MC Lyte,
right,
woman first type women rap, or you were hearing women in like a real I don't even know how to explain it. Like, not rapping like this, right? They were rapping like...
They were gangster rapping, right?
Yeah, they were gangster rapping as... Man, because it could just sound problematic, what I want to say, but it's that they would be like, oh, my pussy is this, and, you know, like that almost, right?
Sexualized. They were
using their womanhood to sexualize that gangster rap, right? Whereas Foxy, which is, again, to the point of maybe Nas wrote this verse or whomever, Foxy comes in here and is rapping like Nas, essentially. You know what I mean? And is hard. I mean, this shit is hard. Trust me, it's hard. You know what I mean? I'm not shitting on this verse. It's
believable. More importantly, like the believability
of
it. It's like, oh, you're rapping some stuff that sounds like you were in there.
Sounds like you know what you're talking about a little bit. You know what I mean? She breaks down a key at the end here. You know what I mean? Keys is 1 2/5. So how we flip 32 grams raw, chop it in half, get 16.
Well, that's the highlight of the.
Correct.
Of the. Right?
Yeah. She's breaking down this key, and it's It's fire. Listen, it's fire. Okay, I'm sorry. I think AZ. I stay in AZ. I think he has the best verse, but maybe I'm just a piece of shit. Okay, that's
No,
fine.
it doesn't make you that, but it's just preference-wise, you prefer to hear what he has to say.
Well, and because I also think her verse is a little bit too long. You know what I mean? I think it's a little bit too long.
And I think a big thing to contextualize at this point is that a big thing that happened in the 90s is the crew.
Correct.
Which is happening nowadays, right? Everyone's solo. It's not smart to go 2 or more.
Yeah.
And because there's no money to be made.
Correct.
So there was a formula where you got the lead, the first one goes in. Then you have their shooter to the right. Yeah. And then you have their main man since birth on the left.
Correct.
And then you have the woman of the crew. And it's like, Rockefeller had it, Death Row had it. Mm-hmm. Everyone's like, you had the two guys and a girl.
Yeah.
Correct. I'm going to make it on, and then we're going to put you on.
Yeah.
And so this was her time to shine, and obviously she made a career out of it, right? Because this wasn't the first verse of hers before she blew up, or
no? I think she's had other verses,
but then she follows it with Jay-Z stuff, right?
Yeah, but this is the beginning of her. You know what I mean? This is the beginning of Foxy Brown Firm, which leads to Foxy, because no, I think she's I don't remember which happens first. I couldn't tell you which gets recorded first. And this is before Nas and Jay-Z are officially beefing necessarily. There is friction because of Nas Biggie. But the thing with Foxy going between them, I think may add to the beef in a certain way, especially if you believe that Nas and Foxy were messing around at some point. But it just whatever. But to your point, also at this time is the crew rap where it's like, we're not going to do a hook, we're all going to just rap, which gives us like a fire Capadonna verse, which is one of the best hip hop verses of all time, and this verse, which is right up there.
So, all right, and so I feel like we exhausted this song.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I went a little ham there.
I'm saying me and you. So 9, 10, and 11 were, and even 13, I thought were like, eh.
Yeah, none of these songs are necessarily. I like 13 because we get a Fire Havoc verse. I'm sorry, a Fire Prodigy verse. Yeah, even track 10 is.
So let's talk about Black Girl Lost.
Let's talk about track 10. Okay.
It just doesn't fit at all in this album. It's so awkward. It seems disingenuous. It just, what are you trying to say here?
In the scope of in 2020 vision, it's even worse when you look at Nas in his history. It makes this song like real cringy. And at the time though, it's because you're making like this intro conversation right here is making it seem like black women have never had this idea. Do you know what I mean? That's what this sounds like. It's like black chicks don't ever think about shit like this, and that's just it's just not it, Nas.
Is this like going to Belly? Is this part of Belly stuff?
I don't think it is. No, I think this is just. I'm pretty sure this is just for this album.
But I'm saying like this is like, oh, she's complaining about him wanting to go back to Africa and like all
that.
Oh
yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess. But it's just like. It's tone deaf is the best way to say that this song is at this time. Especially when like a couple songs earlier, and this goes back to what this with the Tupac and Nas and guys contradicting themselves, to the line you referenced, I got no game, bitches just understand my story, right? And you're talking this heavy shit about how you get all these chicks, and then are you getting these chicks to preach to them real quick about going back to Africa and this God body shit, or what's going on here? It's a little confusing. Yeah, I don't like this song. I'm just going to say that. I never liked this song. I get the point of it. It's never...
I don't think it would have worked. It never would have worked on a guy listening to it. It wouldn't work on a girl listening to it. It just didn't seem genuine. It's like, what are you trying to... Like, you know a girl that had potential and didn't...
Yeah.
Dead, or it's just, what's the point of the song? The chorus is awkward, like Casey and JoJo, or JoJo rather.
Yeah, JoJo. Yeah.
The birds, he just sounds awkward. It just like it's catchy, I guess, but not really. Like it just doesn't fit into the whole mafioso thing.
listen, there has been, but this has been done well before. Tupac did it on Brenda Got a Baby, right? That was done well. Kendrick does it on
Really? On the Brenda, or
I think he does it on both.
he does Section 80 like a couple times.
He does it on Section 80 a couple times. You're right. He does it a couple times, and it's better. He does reference it also on Good Kid, Mad City when he like follows up the one story he tells on Section 80. It's done well. This is like putting a fucking billboard out. You know what I mean? As opposed to telling a story and endearing us to that. She's telling a story here, but this is telling a story that's like, I got played by a chick, and it's like, girl, you lost. You don't even know. And now I'm going to make this fucking song about how black girls are lost. Yeah, because you played the shit out of me. You feel me? Like, it's disingenuous. And again, looking with the 2020 scope, it is not great. But let's get to this. So I guess Silent Murder was on here.
You know why we're here.
Yeah, we're here for this. This is the best verse. Again, back to Nas, he doesn't waste real estate when it comes to the first line. It's like Nas wrote it's like he took a writing class. You know what I mean? You want to capture someone's attention in the first line? Well, Nas does that constantly. You know what I mean? Some people waste that first line and say dumb shit. Nah, man, imagine smoking weed in the streets without cops. And, of course, prescient for today, without cops harassing. Imagine going to court with no trial. I mean, just everything, lifestyle, cruising Blue Bahama. I mean, bro, I could talk about this first verse, how perfectly it's written, one of his best rapped verses.
Who produced it?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know who produces this album. I mean, who produces this song. Produced by Rashad Smith and Trackmasters.
Okay.
Yeah, back to your point about when he leaves Trackmasters on this album, it gets like not great. Yeah, I mean this song, and it still resonates today. It's fresh today.
We've all had this conversation sitting on the stoop, sitting on the stoop. And that's why it resonated with everyone. You know what I mean? But the thing was that he was able to intertwine illegal activity that's not really that illegal. Like, imagine just being able to smoke weed on the corner. Like, now, you know, almost 20 years later,
yeah.
Like, all right, cool. I'm allowed to smoke weed in public now. You're not going to harass me, where at one point I'm doing 20 years.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is I actually think differently. Yeah, technically you are, but as we see in the climate today, right? If you're a black dude in North Philly on the street smoking weed, yeah, you're probably going to get harassed still by cops. You know what I mean? They're going to ask you questions. They want to know what you're doing. So it's still, he's telling the story of a paradise that doesn't exist currently in America, right? Yeah. And it still resonates today. The other thing about this, at the time, I don't know. I don't know if I just didn't know. I know Lauryn Hill could sing, but this is before Lauryn Hill really is flexing her vocals, I think, to this level. And I could be wrong.
No, you're wrong.
I'm wrong. I could be wrong.
Killing Me Softly was already out.
I don't think Killing Me Softly was out.
Look it up. Want to bet?
You look it up. I'm here talking. Go look it up while I'm talking.
I'll peruse while you're talking. Go ahead.
Okay. And so at this time, I just didn't know about Lauryn Hill. And when we look back at Lauryn Hill now, I mean, there could not have been a better singer for this song. Maybe like Erykah Badu would have been great too on this song, just because of what she is and who she is and what she represents. But it's just like not a lot of singers that could have done, I think, what Lauryn Hill does here, which is this, I mean, in the short period of time that she has available to her, from her hook all the way to the end here, where is it? Yeah, and then we'll walk right up to the sun, hand in hand, which I actually think this is a spiritual, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see if they reference it here. Okay.
Killing Me Softly was in May, and this came out, June?
In June, okay.
So she was on the heels of her becoming a mega superstar.
Yeah. So we're finding out. About it. And yeah, I mean, this is, this song is classic. It could come out today and be a hit. You know what I mean? I don't. But what do you think? Do you think I'm right? If it came out today, do you think this could be a hit?
Oh yeah, it's timeless. This is a Kendrick Lamar song all over.
Yeah,
J. Cole.
yeah,
J. Cole. It's just, I think what Nas did excellently with this song is just kept it simple.
Mm-hmm.
It made it relatable to the hood. You know, you love to hear stories of how thugs live and where he ducked down in car seats. He's mandatory, and like it's just like, oh, okay, I've been there, I understand that, or I know someone. Yeah. Just running from Jake's getting chased, hunger for baby. Like it's just like you're saying the same old thing. You're mastering the beat, riding it, and doing it justice.
Yeah.
Like neither one outshines. You are living in equality right now, in like in limbo. And what was interesting to me, so let's go back to the music video you talked about in the beginning.
Oh, okay.
The theory that I read about was essentially, so something that always stood out, if you go to the end of verse 3, it just ends abruptly.
Yeah.
So what they're saying is like this album is kind of like a story, and this is like his last couple of thoughts.
Yeah. Before it's over.
Went too far down.
Yeah,
but,
I'm sorry.
I thought I'd never see where reality struck. So this is him.
Find out before your time's out. What the fuck? Yeah.
And that's him being murdered. But this is like his last couple thoughts before, and I guess what the music video was supposed to be. Yeah. Like, dang, I would have been able to see this happen.
Listen, I wouldn't put it past Nas. I mean, we're talking about somebody who I don't think he realized that it was a complete sentence when he started beefing with Jay-Z, the Illmatic, It Was Written, I Am, Nostradamus, but he did realize it when he released I Am, and he knew he was going to do it with Nostradamus, and it all fit. So is it beyond Nas to have put a theme like that in this album, right? Where the beginning of the album, but this is the message, I'm telling you, right? And the second verse of the message, he talks about how, in reference to the first verse, this dude comes home from jail, blah, 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 blah. I have my gun on me. I want to shoot him, right? Street dreams. So we continue. If this is a story we're telling, street dreams. We're out here hustling, right? And then, boom, I gave you power. It's about the gun on his hip, right? Or this gun that's being passed around these streets. So it's 100% possible. And if we're comparing this to Casino, right, which is, again, like I made this reference earlier, then, yeah, this is Ace getting blown up. You know what I mean? And the only question is, does Ace make it out? Right. Well, in the story of Nas's career, yeah, he makes it out, and he's not the same. You know what I mean? Because I Am comes out, although I Am, I think arguably might have his best single between this or Nas's Like, which is one of my favorite Nas songs ever. It's incredible. But the album is not good. I've seen people now trying to like.
This is his biggest single.
It was it was a business. No, you saw it.
This one and I know I Can is
I Can is massive.
It's his two biggest singles.
That makes sense. I just love Nas's Like the beat.
Right, a great song. It's and even made you look like kind of holds like longer
for sure.
But it's like so many different songs, but. Regardless, yes, there is. I don't know. I remember listening to I Am and Nostradamus and being like, oh, this is rough.
Some people have tried to run back and say I Am is better than we realize, and it's not. I can tell you here it's not. And neither is Nostradamus. Neither is Nostradamus. I'm sorry. But then he comes back with Stillmatic eventually, and, we have Nas back for a brief period.
So closing thoughts.
This is.
You want me to go or you? How about you end it?
Go ahead. Yeah, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
So in terms, if I were to go track for track, like there's 14. There was Rap Genius has the 15th track, which actually is interesting. Like I actually like the song. It's not in the album at all, which is dope. Track for track, it's like literally 50-50, right? There's because the songs, his highs are timeless.
Yeah.
Lows are so forgettable and so bad. Mm-hmm. So for me, I have to like agree with the Jay-Z meh thing, right? Mm-hmm. It has to be a 7. It has to be an average album.
Okay.
It's better than most people's albums because his highs are so high that, and it's so influential. Mm-hmm. But I feel like the Havoc and like Dr. Dre and whatever, like it's just like I wasn't impressed by the production by Havoc. Like he had an okay verse. Dre's beat obviously was okay, but you know, Nas, even on the whack beats, he just performed his behind off.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like I understand it wasn't a bad sophomore album. Is what my closing thoughts would be, but it was an average album.
Yeah, I think 7 is good. I think that's about right. I think 7 is a little bit better than Meh. I always think when Meh, I'm like, that's like a 5 or a 6. Sure. You know what I mean? I think this is a 7. You could even argue 8 in some, depending how you feel. I think that there are maybe 2 bad songs, right? And then there's a couple okay songs. They're fine. I wouldn't skip them necessarily, but I'm not going out to listen to them. And then there are songs that are, oh, shit, like this is fire. You know what I mean? And even and then even to Jay's point, right? This is at a time in hip hop where we're not none of these guys are necessarily know how to assemble music. They're not musicians yet, right? Musician, like the musician, the hip hop musician happens later, way later, because up until this point, it's just guys recording a couple songs on beats that maybe they like, and they're like, here, take this, right? And then teams start assembling songs. So now here's 100 songs, and this team of 10 people are going to grab 12 songs and make an album. Here's an album for you. And now I would say there are more people that are like, I think, more artists that are more in tune to what they want to put out and kind of how to put an album together. Nas, at this time, is executing rap at its highest level. You know what I mean, is what I would say, right? So even if you think the album is, you can't deny the rapper, you know what I mean? Which at this time is important when you put it in context. We're still talking about MCing, you know what I mean? This is how Nas is looking at this. He's looking at this as, who is the better MC? Well, Nas is executing being an MC on this album to the highest. I compared this earlier in my mind. The way Nas tells stories, the reason why it was so incredible, what actually the other thing that I would say makes him better than AZ and any rapper generally, he one of my favorite bars on this album is, I can't remember what song it's on. I think it's actually on the song with AZ, I'm sorry, Affirmative Action, where he says, and now the projects are talking that somebody gotta die shit is logic as long as there's nobody that's in our clique, right? The way he would tell that, it made you think you were reading like a medieval novel. Like you're talking about Game of Thrones and the Lannisters, and King's Landing is saying, well, you know, the Starks are wilding. Somebody has to die. And Cersei is like, well, yeah, that's logic, as long as it's not anyone that's in our clique. You know what I mean? Or the I'm sorry, the father. Who is their father's name? Who's the father? It doesn't matter. Nas is essentially explaining it that way, in a way that I don't think anyone ever explained hood politics. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that sums it up for me, since you're wrapping me up, I think.
Yeah, that sums it up for me.
So yeah, I think that's it. A great album has a lot of great moments, I'll say. Not a great album. A lot of great moments. Follow us below, above Christian. Christian, say goodbye.
Thank you, guys. Again, tune in. Let us know old albums you want to hear. 90s, 2000s.
Not even rap albums. It could be any fucking album. You know what I mean?
Put in the comments. Let us know. We're looking.
Let us know.
Love.
So ready.
I am paying attention half of the time. So, all right, everybody, take care. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Peace out.
Won't catch me slipping if I'm actually thinking you're acting different. Manic, spitting sounds of manic depressing. Going through